All right. Well, good morning, everyone. And on behalf of St. John's and our Legacy Giving Ministry, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's really wonderful to see you here. And I think it's a topic that's going to touch us all, regardless of our age or our stage of life. So, first of all, for those of you who may not be familiar with the Legacy Giving Ministry, our purpose is to help parishioners think thoughtfully and prayerfully about planning for the future. And we provide education and resources related to estate planning and end of life planning, charitable giving, and just other important life decisions. We also really encourage parishioners to consider how they might leave a lasting legacy that supports the mission and ministries of St. John's for now and for generations to come. So if you have any questions about the Legacy Giving Ministry, please feel free to approach Earl, who is our fearless leader, or myself or John Welch, and we'd be happy to try and help however we can. At its heart, legacy giving really is just an extension of stewardship. It's about aligning our values, our faith, and our resources in a way that reflects what matters most to us. And while many people think of legacy planning primarily in terms of wills and trusts or charitable gifts, it also invites us to think more broadly about how we care for ourselves and our loved ones as we age. And that's really going to be the focus of our forum this morning. Today's conversation is about planning with intention, not simply for what happens after we're gone, but also for the years that are leading up to that point as well. And so when people think about estate planning or elder care planning or senior living decisions, they often think about complexity and uncertainty and really difficult conversations. And sometimes these can feel like overwhelming tasks that are easy to postpone because they seem daunting or even emotionally challenging. But one of the things that I hope you'll hear this morning, and that is that thoughtful planning doesn't create stress, it actually relieves it. So certainly, it can be a tremendous gift to our families. Planning ahead can spare loved ones from having to make difficult decisions in a time of crisis. And it can also provide clarity when emotions are sometimes running high. But it also is also a gift that we give ourselves. Having trusted professionals help us guide us through these decisions can really replace that uncertainty with confidence and transform what feels like an overwhelming series of decisions into very manageable steps. So I'm very happy today to have a few wonderful speakers with us, and they have devoted their careers to helping people navigate these transitions, whether it's understanding legal frameworks that protect us as we age and finding right living or finding the right living environment as our needs change. They bring clarity, structure, and really peace of mind to decisions that many people sometimes find quite intimidating. So in other words, today's conversation is not simply about preparing for the future. It's about reducing anxiety. It's about increasing confidence and helping us approach the future with a greater peace of mind. So, to help us explore these topics, we're really fortunate to have three outstanding speakers with us today. Our first speaker is Lily Hummel. She's an attorney with Landsman Law Group in Rockville. Lily focuses her practice on elder law, estate planning, special needs planning, guardianship, and state and trust administration. Before entering private practice, she spent many years working with the Medicare and Medicaid policy, giving her a unique perspective on the legal and financial and healthcare systems that we often intersect with as we age. Many of us attended last year's session on estate planning, and Lily will kind of touch on some of those foundational concepts. However, she's going to then build on that and focus on the relationships between estate planning and elder care law. Then Lily will also help us to understand how these disciplines work together and how planning can help us bring both peace of mind, not just to ourselves, but also to those who care for us. And then following Lily's presentation, we have Ginger and Christy, who are the founders of Silver Bridges Consulting. Ginger and Christy help older adults and their families navigate what can often feel like a really confusing and overwhelming world of senior living options. They work really closely with families to understand priorities, care needs, lifestyle preferences, location considerations, and financial circumstances, and then help them identify communities and resources that can best fit. What makes their work especially meaningful is that it's informed not just by professional expertise, but also personal experience. Both of them have been in this. Christy brings a heart for service. She's got 25 years of experience in the senior living industry. She's worked as a leader for one of the top 5 providers in the country. She also has served as the VP of Operational Skills, Operational Excellence for an organization serving seniors in over 1,000 communities across 40 states. So I'm really grateful that we have this group with us and sharing their time. I'm going to get out of the way and let you listen to the experts. So if you will join me in welcoming our first speaker, Lily Hummel.
Well, thank you, Melanie, very much. And thank you to St. John's. I really appreciate you having me this morning. Welcome very much. It's a beautiful day. It's almost pretty much the start of summer. So my assumption is anyone here really wants to be here. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Just as, of course, as a disclaimer, this is not legal advice. I can't answer any very specific questions for you this morning, but I am hoping that this helps you think about where you're at in your estate planning and what you can do to feel most comfortable. Our goals in my 20 minutes is talk about estate planning. So as Melanie alluded to, it's more than just the documents, right? And it's more than just a will. So it's talking about incapacity planning, how to build your support network, as well as what happens to someone's assets after they pass away. And from there, I'm going to talk about elder law, which is a really broad term. So I'm going to give you some food for thought about elder law and next steps. So from my perspective, effective estate planning is really not about documents at all. It's about articulating your goals, organizing not only your assets, but also your support network, which we'll talk about today. And that's a big part of what my co-presenters here are today to help us think more broadly about how to plan. It's about a support network. Then seeking counsel, and I mean counsel writ large by both other types of professionals in my field and other fields. Melanie is a financial advisor, as well as your trusted friends and family, and then the follow through. None of this matters without effective follow through. It's really a cycle over time to articulate goals, organize, bring our people together, bring in professional assistance, and again, the follow through. For the goals part, what I love most about my job, or one of the things I love most, is getting to meet very rational people who have completely different goals. So I have people come in and I will have some people who will talk through their situation and I'll talk to them. Slides are not shown to Zoom audience. Okay. I have some people that will tell me, one of their top goals is avoiding probate, which I'll explain later, and they want to pay 0 taxes. That is just so important for their goals, and we talk about what that means in their context. And then I'll have someone with very similar facts come in, also very rational. I'll point out some of their potential tax exposure, and I've had more than one client say, I don't really care. I'm not going to be here anymore, not my problem. And tax exposure is just not a goal we focus on for them. So identifying and being honest with yourself about your goals and that your goals may change. And as your goals change, we need to change the plan and the people involved. The clicker's not working. Can you advance the next slide, please? There we go. So for estate planning, for me, I think it's helpful if you don't work on this day to day the way I do, to think of it in terms of a timeline. Helps it maybe be a little less intimidating. So there's what I suggest we do while we're alive for planning, and then what planning we need to do for post-death, for asset transfer, and to care for the people that maybe are depending on us while alive. So while we're alive, what I would call this incapacity planning. So this is the event where you're alive, but you're not well. It can be not well, meaning a progressive condition or a sudden condition where you literally cannot manage your assets and your well-being. It can also mean, to be very frank, I have clients, let's say in their 90s, they still have capacity, they understand, but as they're moving further along the aging continuum, they don't want to do it anymore. They like writing the checks, reading the contracts, paying the taxes, like following the minutia, they're done, right? And so it's not that they're incapacitated, but they're at a point where they really do need a support network. For that stage of life, from a legal perspective, there's two documents at play here. And this can look a little different in drafting attorney to attorney, but if we boil it down, it's your financial power of attorney, who has the legal authority to step into your shoes when you're alive but not well, filing taxes, managing accounts, signing contracts. And then there's the healthcare advance directive. That can have a lot of different parts, but in short, who's the person or people you're authorizing to talk with your doctor on your behalf to access your medical records? And then what are your wishes for end of life care? And what would be your wishes for funeral and burial memorial services? So it's an opportunity to put on paper what it is you want so that the people who would manage these things have clear direction. I'm going to talk, and this will, the during life piece is really going to be more what my colleagues here talk about. And I'm going to circle back when we get into elder law as well. But for now, in terms of just typical estate planning, I'm going to transition on the time continuum to the post-death considerations. When I have clients come in, it's not unusual that I have people tell me, when I say, what are your goals? They say, I need a will. I need to avoid probate. I want a trust, or some variation of that. And that's fine. That's a great starting point. My job is really to help lift it up and see that a good estate planning is about a lot more than that. It's not about the documents. It's not about avoiding probate. So if we go back to my circle that I started with, where we articulate our goals, then we organize our assets and people. So we've talked a little bit about goals, and that's a process that I suggest you'll be doing mostly by yourself, with your loved ones, thinking about your values. Your attorney could help you clarifying your goals. But in general, my clients come to me, they're articulating their goals. A next step is organizing assets and people. So I can best help you as an estate planning attorney if you can clearly articulate what your assets are and where you have them. Maybe working with your financial planner, your accountant. It's not unusual that people have over a lifetime accumulated all these 401ks and retirement accounts. They have in Nebraska a checking account with $900 from a job they had for 2 years when they were 27, right? We want to get that organized. That's part of it, right? And the other part, and this gets into Melanie's introduction, that I think is really overlooked, and I really encourage my clients to think about, we're not just organizing the assets. We have to organize our people. And this is probably where I see my clients struggle the most, especially if they don't have natural blood family. Like, being very frank, it's adult children who are engaged, have capacity, and are willing, right? This gets very awkward very quickly. And so I want us to think more broadly about our chosen family and about our paid professional supports we can bring in, because there are incredible services available in the DMV if you seek them out, if you interview them while you're well, so that you can have them on tap for when you're not well. So organizing your people is going to be a big part of effective estate planning, both for in the event of incapacity and for both post-death. All right, so starting to hone in a little bit on the estate planning, we have to define our estate, because people, again, they say, I want a will, I want a trust. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll get there. But from an estate planning attorney perspective, what I want my clients to understand is there's different tracks that direct how your assets are going to be dealt with after you pass away. What's the titling? Is it jointly titled? Because if it is, it doesn't matter what I put in your will. The titling of your house or your car or your bank account controls. So the survivor owns the asset. Do you have designated beneficiaries on the financial account? Then again, it doesn't matter what I put in your trust or your will, because that's going to control. You certified while alive, this is my designated beneficiary who I want to receive the assets. So when was the last time you went back in and reviewed those designated beneficiaries and those contingent backup beneficiaries? So we've got how it's titled. Are there designated beneficiaries? And then we look at whether you have a trust, and I'll talk about a trust briefly in a moment. The will is everything else, okay? That's what we're talking about with what is directed according to the terms of your will. So anything that's not jointly owned, not held by a trust, not with a designated beneficiary, that's going to be transferred after a person passes according to the probate process. I have a lot of clients tell me they want to avoid probate. I say, have you ever dealt with probate? They say no, and they don't actually know what probate is. In short, probate is just the process by which a court oversees the distribution of assets. It's just the process of court overseeing the distribution of assets because it wasn't jointly owned, there's no designated beneficiaries, and the trust is not directing what happens. So to make sure your wishes are honored, we look at state law as implemented here by each county. So we have the Montgomery County Register of Wills, which is in the circuit court. So when we go back to this slide, we see that actually a lot of things are not dealt with through the probate process. It's the everything else. And then the will becomes very important because the last will and testament is going to be the document directing what's going through probate and how that looks. I'm just going to say briefly about a revocable living trust. A revocable living trust, a trust is a contract laying out the terms and conditions of what happens to the things titled to the trust. So instead of John Doe owning the house, it's the John Doe Revocable Trust. John Doe is the grantor. He's established the trust. He's decided the terms. While he's alive, John Doe is the trustee. He's the person responsible for administering the trust. Now, during his lifetime, John Doe benefits from what's titled to the trust. But after his lifetime, he may be named a friend or a professional as the successor trustee. They're now the ones who are looking at the trust for instructions on what happens to the assets titled to the John Doe Trust. And they're going to be the ones responsible for distributing those assets according to the trust. Assets titled to the trust don't go through probate because John Doe, the individual, didn't own them anymore. So it's substituting for the will and the probate process. You can talk with your attorney and gather information about if that makes sense for you. But I just want to offer that having the trust itself is not valuable if you haven't done the important step of asset alignment, meaning retitling assets, going through and making sure everything is lined up to be distributed the way that you want after your lifetime. So moving on to elder law. Elder law is an umbrella term. It can mean different things to different people. I mean, you could even say it's just any area of law affecting seniors. I would define it more narrowly. Generally, in my practice, elder law, it's planning for long-term care, preservation of assets, protecting future Medicaid eligibility, which I'll talk about in a minute, and fiduciary advising. So elder law is a lot of when someone no longer has capacity and they have either a financial agent, a healthcare agent, or a successor trustee acting on your behalf because you're not well anymore. It's helping that person, the fiduciary, understand the rules of the road, what they can and cannot do, how to best act in your interest. So a lot of what I'm doing in elder law is fiduciary advising to help people understand how to pick up where mom or dad or aunt or uncle or friend left off. When we talk about long-term care, it can broadly read, it could be pretty much everything: home care, assisted living, nursing home care. But there's only several ways this is going to get paid for. It's private pay, it's having long-term care insurance or a combination of the two, public benefits, and that's it. So it's an honest discussion with your financial advisor and looking at your assets you've now organized about what is going to make sense based on your expectations long term. I'm going to be very frank. There's very limited public benefits out there. Medicare is just a medical health insurance program. Only in very limited circumstances does it have any kind of home care benefit. It doesn't cover long-stay nursing home. It doesn't cover assisted living. It will cover skilled nursing facility rehab after a person's been in a hospital for a couple days and needs ongoing daily nursing or skilled nursing support. Therapy or skilled nursing support. So Medicare is really just health insurance. And I have a lot of people come into me and they're like, okay, mom's Parkinson's or Alzheimer's has really progressed or natural aging process. What are our options? And I'm like, okay, well, Medicare is just health insurance. So we're not looking to Medicare for anything. We can talk about VA if there was active military service. That includes spousal support or support if you have a disabled adult child. There's very limited other programs. There's some limited housing supports. It's very county dependent. And then I've put on here, and anyone's welcome to the link in Montgomery County where you can call to get support screening. And then we're going to talk about Medicaid. Before I move on to Medicaid, if private pay is possible, there's amazing support out there. Geriatric social workers, care managers, the kind of care navigation that Ginger and Christy are going to talk about. There's really incredible support out there. You just have to know to ask for it and articulate, or have your fiduciaries, meaning your financial agent, your healthcare agent, your supported network, know to ask for. Because the people that you're bringing on to be, for example, your financial agent, they don't have to be the ones to write the bills for you. They can hire a daily money manager to do it. Daily money managers are incredible services that I want to get the word out is out there to help people that are overwhelmed with bills. It's not the right job for your accountant or your financial advisor or your attorney. There are services out there if you can afford them and you know to ask for them. For people where it seems likely there's going to need to be long-term care, and in this particular context, I'm talking about nursing home. There is a progressive condition. Someone's not going to be able to live safely at home. And either there's limited financial means available, or there's a spouse and we need to preserve assets so that spouse is not impoverished. What are the options for that? At that point, we're talking about a very specific program called Medical Assistance Long-Term Care. Medical Assistance Long-Term Care is Medicaid paying for you to live in a nursing home. That's what it is. The program is confusing. It's very complicated. It's set out, as all of our Medicaid programs are, as a federal framework that every state then tailors. So your friends in New York and Delaware and Florida, like their advice, your children who live in Denver who are getting advice, that is not helpful to you because Medicaid is implemented by the state. And not only that, but there's a county component to it as well. So the advice from people out of state, including the District of Columbia, chuck it. Okay, we need to get Maryland specific, or if you live in the district, you need to get district specific. It's a very fact-specific analysis. You change one tiny detail and Medicaid eligibility completely needs to evolve, okay? But in short, at a very high level, and I'm glossing over a lot, but I just want to provide some very basic education about medical assistance long-term care eligibility, because this is the public benefit of last resort. There are really broadly writ, papering over a lot. There's three main buckets of criteria we got to fulfill. Level of care. The most common way that my clients meet the level of care criteria is needing hands-on assistance with 2 or more activities of daily living. That's bathing, dressing, grooming, ambulating, toileting. The basic functions to take care of our body, they need hands-on assistance with 2 or more. There are other criteria, including if you have cognitive decline, but I would say those are the two most obvious. So if a person runs out of money but doesn't meet the level of care criteria, Medicaid is not available to them. That's a really key point I want to drive home. It won't trigger your long-term care policy because it also is usually based on this level of care criteria. There is an income component. It is generally not relevant to qualify, but what will happen is almost all of your income will get rerouted to pay the nursing home towards your cost of care. And then the major criteria that my clients come to me specifically for is the asset eligibility. I'm going to completely oversimplify. Please don't take this home and tell all your friends, but to really oversimplify, the criteria is the following. You can have a house in some circumstances, but of your assets that can be liquidated in any way, IRA, 401k, CDs, anything, the applicant can have a maximum of $2,500 in their name. And if they have a spouse, there is a spousal allowance of, I'm rounding, this number changes year to year, but roughly $150,000. There are planning techniques that we can do both in advance and at the time of application to preserve assets for the spouse. But again, I want to be very clear, this is a very limited circumstance where we're talking about someone who's very unwell, who's going to live in a nursing home that takes Medicaid. This is not someone going to Silverado or Sunrise Senior Living, okay? So I just want to make that concrete and clear. If you could advance to the next slide, please. So what are our takeaways? One, I beg of you, you need a good power of attorney. I really strongly encourage, you've reviewed it in the last 5 years, that it reflects who you would want as your agent. And if you think that you are in a position where you may need Medicaid planning, it's really essential that that power of attorney has been drafted by an attorney who can put in special powers to assist with that kind of planning. Conversations with your support people, and an acknowledgement on your end, this might just be your 5 to 10 year plan. We do not need this plan to be your plan forever, but who's in your life now that can be that support person for you, or a group of support people? Which leads me into my last point, which is revisiting as life evolves. So it could be your siblings can still serve in these roles, but as they themselves age and aren't well, let's look at your own children, nieces, nephews, cousins, your best friend's children. So who are we looking at that can serve in these roles, or are we building the professional network to assist us when we're at the point where we can't manage affairs ourselves? So it all comes back to evaluating where you are on the cycle and then picking up the ball from there. All right. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Ginger and Christy to talk about what does it mean picking up the ball, some of the transition of life pieces.
Thank you, Lily. Well, good morning. So happy to be here, and thank you for having us. So my name is Christy Kennedy. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. And Melanie, if you would just keep me on track with time too, that would be helpful. So let me see here. Oh, we've got our deck coming up. So just to give you a little bit of an overview. So Ginger and I are the co-founders of Silver Bridges Consulting. So we are a concierge consulting firm that literally helps folks identify and evaluate senior living options. Now, how many of you are either living at a senior living community or have thought maybe I should look at that or think about that? Is this on anybody's radar? A little bit? Okay, great. All right, so today, hopefully after we wrap up here, you are going to feel a little bit more empowered about what the options are and how this industry works. It is very confusing, as Melanie mentioned earlier. It is incredibly complex, and so our job is really just to help sort of smooth the way for that. So as Melanie mentioned, been in senior living for over 25 years. So we've been doing this for a very long time. About 70% of our business is in this entire DC metro area. So DC, Maryland, Virginia. About 30% of our business is across the US. So we really help clients wherever they are and wherever they need our services. So if you're looking elsewhere and not staying in this market, we can certainly help you with that also. I wanted to share this slide with you because I just want to sort of help you understand what's happening in the world of senior living. So there are, as of today, there are about 30,600 senior living communities across the United States. That number is growing. You've probably seen a lot of new development, new communities being built. That number will continue to grow probably for the next 10 years. Right now, 1 in 6 people in the world are over the age of 60. There is what's happening right now. This started the end of 2025 and is going through the end of 2027. We've got 12,000 people a day turning 65. So the youngest baby boomers just hit 65. So we've got this incredible wave of folks that are going to be needing senior living options over the coming years. Now, beginning in 2030, this is what's really interesting and important for you to keep in mind. Beginning in 2030, we as a country are going to be about 800,000 apartments short of what is going to be needed to take care of the aging population. So senior living has been building. Unfortunately, they haven't been building enough options. It takes about 3 years for many communities from inception when they identify a site to when they actually get that open to residents. So these aren't coming online fast enough. So essentially what that means is we have some waiting list in the market now. Most of those are at communities we're going to talk a little bit about that are called CCRCs, or continuing care retirement communities. A lot more availability on the rental community side. But what's happening now, wait lists here are anywhere between 1 to 3 years. In many of the CCRCs, if you want a larger apartment, larger apartments go first. And when I say larger, I mean 2-bedroom, 2-bath plus den. Those apartments usually have the longest waiting list. But what's going to happen with this whole shortfall is we are going to see these waiting lists explode. There is going to be a much longer wait time for people to get into these communities. So our biggest piece of advice, first of all, I want to applaud you all for being here because it's so important just to educate yourself. And secondly, it is so important to have a plan. As Lily was talking about as well, having that plan is critical. So even if you are considering this down the road, you don't know when you might move, you can actually identify a community you think you may want to move into. You can get on a waiting list, which is typically a fully refundable fee. It's nominal, anywhere between $1,000 up to about $5,000 is the highest we've seen. But you can get on that waiting list, and then if they call you, tell you an apartment's ready, you don't have to move in at that point in time. You can say, no thanks, not ready, and they'll go to the next person. Here in the DC metro area, there are about, if we put a pin in where we are now, and we drew a circle around us that was 30 miles in diameter, there are over 100 senior living communities that fall into that catchment area. So we always tell people the good news is you have a lot of options, and the bad news is you have a lot of options. So that's what helps make this that much more confusing as well. All right, the 2 options we're going to talk about. So if you are considering senior living or if you're helping someone else with this decision, there are essentially 2 options that you have when it comes to this. You have what are these life plan communities, also called CCRCs. Life plan is the new word that was launched about 10 years ago, but most people still know them as CCRCs. These are your largest option. So the CCRCs they're on large campuses. The average residence anywhere from the low side of about 450 residents to the high side of about 2,500 residents. So much larger, much more sprawling. They're going to offer independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing all within that campus. The other option that you have, which people are not as familiar with, which provide just as great care, are just as lovely, are called rental communities. When I talked about earlier that 30,000 communities across the US, 2,000 of them fall into this life plan CCR bucket. Everything else falls in this rental community bucket. So the lion's share of the communities available are rental communities. So rental communities can be set up differently. Many of them offer independent living, assisted living, and memory care. They are not going to have skilled nursing. That's one differentiator. You have some rental communities where they just offer assisted living and memory care. And then there are some standalone memory care where that is all they do and all they specialize in. And then another option that falls into this is what are called group homes. So these are small residential homes. You've probably driven by them in neighborhoods and didn't even know that's what they were. But they are residential homes that are licensed by the state to be able, depending on the state, to be able to care for 6 to 8 residents at that community. So just another option, much more small, much more intimate type setting. And then obviously you've got your skilled nursing long-term care, but that really is more the long-term care side versus the senior living side. So with life plan communities, I want to just give you a really high level overview about life plan communities and rental communities to help distinguish these a little bit. So as I mentioned, these are the campus model. They'll usually have separate buildings that house independent living, another building with memory care and assisted living, and then usually, depending on how large the community is, they may have a separate building for skilled nursing, or that may be in the same health services type building. Things you want to know about these communities: you do have to be 62 years or older to qualify. That's the same for rental communities. You'll see a lot of similarities here between CCRCs and rental communities. They're going to have a number of options when it comes to apartment styles. So if you want to stay with a large apartment, you can certainly do that. There's some in this market that go up to 3,200 square feet, so the size of a house. Obviously, then smaller apartments as well, 800 square feet, and some that are even a little smaller than that. But lots of options. These communities are going to offer on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapy, which is really nice. It's there. Even if you move in and you don't need it, it's great to have it on campus. They will also have physicians there that are visiting the residents. Most of these are primary care physicians, typically with the gerontology background. You do want to keep specialists like cardiologists and neurologists and those type folks. But in addition to the physicians, they bring in audiology, podiatry, dermatology. They even bring in mobile dentistry. And it's crazy what they can do in someone's apartment through mobile dentistry. So all those services come in, again, just to make it easier for the residents. Now, with the amenities, because the majority of the residents in a CCRC are independent, you are going to see larger scale amenities. So they may have an indoor and outdoor swimming pool. They may have a woodworking shop, pottery studio, bocce ball, numerous art studios, all types of things that are available. They will offer between 5 to 8 scheduled activities every day on an activities calendar. But in addition to that, there are a lot of resident-run clubs. So we were at a community recently, and they had over 250 resident-run clubs. So it was anything. They had 5 different languages you could learn. They had bird watching. They had a knitting group, a crocheting group, a photography group. So all kinds of things that you can do. And if there's something you're interested in and it's not offered, and there are enough people that are interested, usually it's something that can be started, because it really is resident-run and resident-focused. Most of these communities are pet friendly. So if you have a dog or a cat, they love having animals there. There have been in the past a lot, typically weight limits. We're seeing those go away some. Typically, if the community has a weight limit, it's about 25 to 35 pounds. Oftentimes now it's temperament of the dog, if you're bringing in a dog. So pets are certainly welcome. And then most of these communities will provide free transportation to within 5 to 10 miles of the community. So if you had a doctor's appointment, you weren't driving, they can drop you off, they can pick you up. They don't stay with you, but they can drop you off and pick you up. Or if you wanted to go to a show at Arena Stage or something, they could arrange for that to happen as well. So that transportation is a nice addition. All right, we're going to pivot and talk about rental communities. So within the rental community model, the only difference here is you don't have skilled nursing on site. And for some people, that is a disadvantage. For others, it doesn't matter. And I will tell you, just because a CCRC has a skilled nursing, it doesn't mean it's a Medicare 5-star skilled nursing rated facility. So that's if you're looking for skilled nursing, that's what's really important. Medicare is, not Medicare. Skilled nursing is regulated by Medicare, Center for Medicare. So it's kind of the only thing we have as a barometer to see how well they're run, but just something to keep in mind. So rental communities can have a lot of different options. Many of them here have independent living, assisted living, and memory care available. Same type of living options, large to small spaces are always going to be available. Again, if you're looking for a large apartment, those are typically going to have the longest waiting list. They are also going to have on-site physical, speech, occupational therapy, and bring in those additional physicians with having a primary care physician there to see the residents. Sometimes there will be several that come in, as well as the audiology, the podiatry, and the dentistry will come in. You're going to have the same type of amenities at a rental community. So average size of a rental community is anywhere between about 150 residents up to about 350 residents. That's really about how large they get. So if you're looking for something that's a little more intimate, these could be a better option. Same type of activities, 5 to 8 activities a day. Rental communities will have clubs as well. They're not going to have 200. They may have 50 different types of clubs, but lots of those are offered. Also pet friendly, and they will also provide free transportation for you to get to those appointments or things that are scheduled. Now, I want to just share with you briefly, most folks don't want to move to a community. In fact, 91% of people want to stay in their own home. So if you want to age in place, I just want to share briefly with you about this. There are great, if you are caring for someone who has any type of memory impairment, there are some really wonderful day programs that give the caregiver a much needed break. These day programs are really based on, they've got obviously certified staff there, they provide meals there, they do medication management there, and they have programming throughout the day to keep people engaged. So that is certainly an option. There's one in Virginia specifically for dementia, the only one on the east here, which is called Insight Memory Care. There's a great one, Iona Services. Ingleside Rock Creek now has one as well. So lots of great day programs around. If you want to stay at home, which most people do, the thing you want to keep in mind is if you're going to hire home health, which means companion care who can come in, support you with those activities of daily living, run errands for you, do things like that. In most cases, you are having to hire them for 4 hours a day, even if you only need them for an hour, 2 to 3 days a week. The rate that you're looking at with that is about $35 to $38 an hour. So just to keep that in mind, that's what you're looking at. When we look at the numbers, in most cases, if you're getting more than about 20 hours of home care, it almost makes more sense to move into an assisted living community if you just strictly look at the finances. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you needed a nurse to come in, let's say you had a skin wound or you needed to be on IVs or something and you need a nurse to come in, that rate is about $80 to $90 an hour for that service. So something just to be aware of. And then the last thing I want to share with you about aging in place, how many of you are a member of a village, a neighborhood village? Excellent. We are big fans of villages. And for those of you who don't know what they are, these are nonprofit organizations, volunteer-based. There are 280 across the country, and we are so fortunate we have 80 in this DC metro area. So we have lots of them. But the whole goal with a village is about helping people age in place. So it's neighbors helping neighbors. There is a whole cohort of folks that are volunteers, and then there are folks that actually are getting services. So if someone needs to have a light bulb changed, if they need to have their yard mowed, they need somebody to get groceries for them or just come sit with them, you can put that out to the network. Somebody will come and fulfill that need for you. They also provide a lot of great social opportunities. So keeping people really engaged and helping them meet other folks. So very important. All right, so we are, as I mentioned, we help folks really identify senior living options, figure this whole thing out. We do a free consultation if you're interested in just learning more about us to see how we work and how we can support you. We would love to do that. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us or give us a call. This is just a little bit about what our process is. I'm not going to go into great detail on that, but we spend about 45 to 50 hours with every family that we help. So very hands-on, very high touch. This is such an important decision, and it's one people don't want to get wrong. And our goal is we want to make sure people are educated and informed with all of the information they need to make the best decision for themselves or for a loved one. And that's a wrap. So yeah, please let us know if you have questions or how we can help you.
So before we go, any questions for any of our presenters today? Yeah, Scott, may I get you this.
With the living arrangements, do you find that your clients are coming to you primarily as couples if they're married, or are they coming to you after like one has already begun to decline?
So great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we have both. We have folks that are coming to us that are, they need something within the next month or two. We have folks, a lot of folks that are that 1 to 3 years out. They just want to see what's available. And it's pretty much an even split between couples and singles. Yeah, thank you.
You mentioned that with is it life planning communities?
Plan,
That you'll get a call once you put the deposit in and apartment is opened up. Presumably the person who gets the call is already living somewhere, and disentangling yourself from that arrangement can be a big deal. How much time, actually two parts to this, how much time do they give you to make the decision to actually opt in and say, yes, I want it now?
So usually it's about 60 days, because there's paperwork that has to be done. There's an approval process financially and medically. And that's one thing important to keep in mind about these CCRC life plan communities. If you want to move into those, you do need to move in when you are still independent. What they're looking for is that people can live independently for about 3 to 4 years before they're going to need assisted living. So you don't want to wait too long to move in. But there is a window of time for those certification processes to happen.
So the other end of it is, what type of legal interest do you have? Is it a fee simple? Do you own the apartment?
Great question.
When you pass away or when you want to sell it, are you able to sell it?
Great question. So we could do a whole nother webinar about contract types. So there are about 5 different contract types when you're looking at a life plan community. Some are this equity co-op model where you actually own the real estate. The majority of what is in this market is not that. You pay what is called an entrance fee, and it's sort of like a country club membership fee. And then in many cases, a portion of that entrance fee can be refunded to you or to your estate when you move out, but you don't actually own that asset.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So a couple of things. Christy and Ginger have a whole plethora of wonderful presentations on their website. So we gave you just like this teaser today of kind of what's out there and what you should be thinking about. But I really encourage you to go check out some of their other presentations. Lily is a dream to work with if you have estate planning issues. And I think all 3 of them, I can say, having known them for a bit and worked with them some with other clients, they're just so easy to navigate what can be kind of tricky things and hard things. And sometimes finding that right partner who can help you with this is really what makes it a lot more manageable. And I can assure you, we got that here. So thank you all so very much for sacrificing a beautiful Sunday morning to come be with us. We really appreciate having you here. And as we mentioned at the beginning, Earl, with our Legacy Giving Society, we are here to be a resource for you wherever you are in the spectrum of life and however the church can support you. We really want to be able to do that. So.